we'll start with the approval of our minutes from our previous meeting from April 28th. If you've had time to review those and then see any amendments or questions concerning, go ahead and let them come forward at this time. And if not, we would look for a motion to pass those.
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Megan, when you can.
Okay. Lacey Colbert is absent. Jeff Garrison,
Aye.
Adam Brown,
Aye.
Susan Daniel,
Aye.
Chad Zickafoos,
Aye.
Hadley Goldberg is absent. Pete Renfro,
Aye.
and Trevor Branch is absent.
Thank you, Megan. And moving right along, we do have tonight a visitor with us. I want to welcome Michael Roberts to present the board with a presentation for the Marabella PUD presentation. Sir, the floor is yours. Before you start, did Lacey, is she on?
Lacey is not on. I have not received. She had asked for a link, but we have not received
Haven't received
any
it. Okay.
communication.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys allowing me to attend your meeting and giving you a little background about our project and the PUD process that we're going through. As you already mentioned, my name is Michael Roberts. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Steve and Connie Faria. They are the owners of this property through an LLC called Marabella. Over the years, this particular section of land has taken on different forms in potential projects. But where we have kind of resolved now is a mixed use parcel of property that's just, I call it north of Lambertson, east of James River Church, east of Farmers Branch Road, 229 acre development that we're trying to achieve. So as I mentioned, I am the Chief Financial Officer for Steve and Connie Faria. They are locals, live and reside in Springfield, Missouri, and have for some time. They kind of split their time between Springfield and down at Table Rock Lake and a little bit down in Florida as they transition into retirement, but have spent the majority of their lives here in Southwest Missouri. They raised 4 girls. They just graduated from Kickapoo, their youngest one, not this past year, but the year before. And then she just got done with her freshman year down at Arizona State playing volleyball. So they chased a couple of kids watching them play volleyball too. The main part of their investment portfolio is in vacation resorts and nightly rentals. We currently have 3 full amenity resorts down on Table Rock Lake, and then a collection of private homes that we also rent out to folks. And then we have 1 rental down in Key Largo, Florida. So by the majority of their trade and most of their time is spent in the space of real estate and mainly through the resorts, and they have some speculative land pieces in their portfolio. One of those pieces includes the one that I'd like to share with you tonight, again, here in Ozark that we're calling Marabella. We are currently looking at trying to get through the application process for a PUD. One of the setbacks that we've had in the particular application deadline process right now is not being able to annex in the property. And that really boils down to the utility provider for this site. Currently, right now, as it sits, the property is not annexed in, still resides in Christian County, and Liberty Utilities is the utility supplier. And I've been informed by council and many other folks that if we were to prematurely annex that in, we would be underneath the franchise agreement that the city has with Liberty Utilities. Which, to be fully transparent with everybody here, would be kind of a deal killer for us on the project, just based on lack of infrastructure that Liberty currently has in place to feed this type of development. And then also the cost sharing to put that infrastructure in is not feasible for us as developers. So I approached Ozark Electric Co-op. They're very excited about this project. and have agreed to try to do their part in being the utility provider for this site. Within the last 6 to 8 months, if you will, their legal counsel has met with legal counsel of Liberty Utilities, and they have agreed with a territory swap for Ozark Electric to be the utility provider. In March, the documentation was filed with the Public Service Commission for that to get approved and allow that to officially happen. And so to kind of circle back, that is what I'm still waiting for at this point, is a commission vote from the Public Service Commission to legally approve that territory swap. I did get a letter within the last couple of weeks that says that the Public Service staff has sent their recommendation letter to the commissioners to vote, and they said, we agree with this, please vote it through. But I have not received confirmation that that vote has taken place. And right now they're underneath an extension until June 3rd. So once I get feedback from that, that is the last piece of information that we need as developers to go ahead and finish off the actual annexation application with you folks. I did file it back in the fall, and then I immediately had to pull it back once I found out that there was a little bit more to that legal process than what we were originally informed of. And so you'll notice if all of you hopefully have received this packet that we handed out, the very last page of this is the current legal surveyed tracts of this 229 acres. If you look it up through the county assessor's office, they've still actually got it divided in 6 tracts. I'm not sure why that's not been officially changed over. But by legal filing, there's 3 tracts there that we plan to annex in all at one time. Again, once we get the vote from the Public Service Commission. So as I mentioned before, we kind of looked at this site in a number of different ways, all the way from doing just leaving it in the county, so to speak, and then doing larger estate custom home building lots. We transitioned from there and looked at it as an industrial site / commercial. And ultimately where we came back to really similar to the original design from when this was proposed, probably approaching 3.5 years ago, is a high density mixed use development. So in this proposed PUD, we have a lot of residential, we have some commercial, we have some multifamily, and we have a section of this property that we would like to do in 55 and older housing. When we look at the diversification goals and the strategic plan for the city of Ozark that was put together several years ago, we feel like this development meets those goals as of it sits today. Because not only are we offering diversity in the housing options, but within those housing options, specifically in the residential, there will be different price points for the residential homes and the different types of sizes and homes within the development. We have all the way from what we're deeming to be community lots to traditional single-family residential lots, all the way to the estate lots for the custom home builder. However, in this development, within that diversity, we do plan to maintain through CCRs a high quality, high integrity building specifications on those homes. For example, not allowing any type of vinyl siding. Our goal in this is to build a community within a community that has longevity, that 10 years from now, that when you drive into this development, it will still maintain quality in a place that people would like to reside. Whether that be, a transition of life stages where maybe they come into an entry-level home, and as their life progresses and they transition out of kids, there's a 55 and older option, or maybe even they stay within a custom home in our estate section of the development. We are trying to do the very best that we can in the current development to leave a big chunk of this in green space. And leaving the current forest as it sits on the property. And right now we have approximately 43 acres out of the 229 acres that will be left in natural habitat, green space, or in the trail system that we're designing within the project. As the design sits right now, we have a little over 4 linear miles of walking and hiking trails within the development. And if you look at, I believe it's the second page of your map handout, this one that's really just embedded with a bunch of green. This is the green space and trail system design that's in the project. And what we are trying to achieve with this is not only the exterior trail system, but allowing anybody that lived in any quadrant of this development to coordinate between the sidewalks and the trail system that we build, to be able to walk with your family, ride your bikes with your kids, walk your dog, and inevitably get to the central amenity park that we're proposing. That's not exactly in the center of the development, but pretty close to the center of the development. And that amenity park will include a pool, a splash pad, basketball court, a couple of pickleball courts, bocce ball, sand volleyball, a clubhouse, and maybe a few other small ground amenities if we can make the terrain work out to get a few more in there. And really, the vision for that amenity park stems from the amenities that we have on our resorts currently, which includes a pool and a splash pad and all those amenities that I just listed. And right now, based on the code as we understand it, with the number of residential lots and units that we're putting into this, the pool itself will be probably at a minimum around 6,000 square feet. So it'll be a decent sized pool and a nice pool for the community. As I mentioned in the trail system, this would be kind of an upright visual of this, but kind of through the center and the northern part of this development, and kind of as it works down to the center and then back to the east, currently sits kind of a dense, heavily forested area in a good chunk of the property. We have worked with our excavators and some of the planned developments to leave as much of that as we possibly can without tearing out current habitat, just because there's a lot of big trees, old trees in there that we think add appeal and nice visual to the development. So we are trying to be conscious of the current landscape and leaving as that is undisturbed as much as we possibly can, especially when it includes the trail system. The current southern portion of that trail system will be the part that it's given to the city as an easement for future development of trail systems, whether that incorporates into the Chadwick Trail System or another path that the city would want to take. But that is the part that would be contributed to the city through easement. On that same map, you'll notice at the bottom of it, there is a kind of a purple squiggly line. A couple of months ago, we got information that was the updated floodplain that FEMA put out. And so we had to go back and kind of redesign the development in that area. And that big green section right there will be a heavy retention area. Obviously, for the amount of rain that we've gotten here in recent days, an important thing that light was shed on here in the last couple of months. And we actually had to take out 30 lots to accommodate that and to make sure that we didn't create additional issues for residents and or businesses that are, on the outside of our property. And to the south here is already, I believe, a 55 and older community down in there that would have affected. So we were able to get off that floodplain line with the current lot development that we're looking at right now and just completely stay out of that space. I'm going to kind of skip over to kind of the diversity that's within the project with just a little bit more detail, and then I'd like to get into some of our vertical build partners that we're working with. Currently, right now, what we're looking at doing in the northwest corner of the development, I'm just going to go ahead and skip to this last slide right here. This is kind of our proposed phasing map right here. With the northwest corner of the development, looking at an apartment complex area up there with approximately 220 units. We're trying to work with our vertical build partners in that section of keeping that 3-story up in that area, but we're still in talks and conversations about whether that's feasible for them. As you move south from there down to the next unit was where we're trying to incorporate townhomes and additional multifamily, whether that be in the form of townhomes and duplexes. So from a multifamily perspective, it will all be concentrated in that northwest section. As you move from there to the south, you'll get into the commercial section. And then all the way down to the southwest corner is the 55 and older community. So all of that quarter right there would be on Farmers Branch Road. So all of those parcels I just discussed would hug just on the east side of Farmers Branch Road. All of the development from there all the way back to the east would be all residential in different lot sizes, different stages of homes, all the way to the northern and northeast section where you're going to get into your bigger estate lots for the custom home building. Again, out of this 229 acres, approximately 43 acres of it will stay in green space and or the trail system, and then the rest of it would be, dedicated to development or road infrastructure on the interior. Is there any questions at this point? I know there's a lot in 229 acres, there's a lot of detail, and so I don't want to give it all to you, but is there any questions?
I'll go ahead and throw one out. You mentioned in the apartments,
Yeah.
you're trying to stay within a 3-story unit. What would develop to take that to a 4? Or am I asking the question properly?
Yeah.
If you're looking to wanting to stay at 3 floors, do you know in your mind now what would bump that to 4? Or are you really looking at 4 and you're just not wanting to say it?
No,
Just
it's a
gonna
great
ask.
question. Yeah, it's a great question. So what the Farias and I are trying to do in this whole development is for us just to develop the land and then partner with vertical build partners on this entire development. And so I give you that to say a lot of that depends on the vertical builder that takes on that particular section of the development. And right now I'm working in conversations with 2 vertical build partners when it comes specifically to the apartments. And so right now we're having conversations about, can we pull off just going 3 stories and then still designing the quality of product that we would like to have in this development and still make it worthwhile as them as investors, as entrepreneurs to build, a complex with 220 units in it. Because we initially were trying to do 240 units. And so we've kind of, backed off of that a little bit to try to see, can we get to 3 levels? And for us specifically, it's just a skyline feature of holding, because of the residential and the other mixed uses in the development, trying to hold the skyline down.
So simplistically, when it comes time to develop the section for the apartments, really anything else throughout the development, you're looking to sell off that section to another developer?
Vertical build partners, yeah.
So you're going to partner with these people and they're partnering with you. So you'll still be involved during that building process, or no?
In that particular section, it's highly likely versus where a lot of the residential units, and when I get into the vertical build partner that we're strategically focused on there, they would in fact do what you just said. They would buy the lots and they would go. The only thing that they're going to be under is obviously the CCRs that we develop to hold them accountable to the quality of product that they can build.
Okay.
But to be fully transparent with you, the people that we're speaking with have had a track record of building quality products for what they do. Just to uphold, what we want to see in this development. Just because of the overall infrastructure that's going to go into 229 acres and where this is located and how we want it to be different from what Ozark has, we feel like, quality is not something that we can, that we can escape from.
Right.
So,
That's what we hope to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, I will tell you that we are also in conversations with 2 commercial vertical build partners that are excited about the commercial space along Farmers Branch. They are waiting for us to get them some more information before they can take their relationships further in those that would actually house that infrastructure when the commercial went in. What we're trying to appeal to the commercial developer there is a very niche retail and a lot of high professional convenience there to really accommodate not only the residents that will end up living in the development, but just for people to have other options that are traveling the Farmers Branch corridor or the other development that's in the area. Again, for us, the main goal in this is for us trying to develop a community within a community. So offering that diversity, offering the outdoor recreational space, but then also the convenience and amenities that would be in that commercial space. The idea that we would try to capture the residents' leisure time in the evenings and on the weekends, if anything, to give them another option, or just make them think, hey, even if the option is not there at the front entrance of this development, is it right down the road with all the other restaurant, convenience store, and grocery shopping options that they have? Our residential partner that we're looking to come out of the gate with is Schubert Mitchell Homes. We had an opportunity, I guess it's been a year and a half ago now, times kind of went by fast, to go down to Joplin and tour some of their model homes that they built. And they really got their start coming out of the Joplin tornado recovery period down there. And when we toured these homes, we toured 3 of them. We liked the price point that they were at with the quality of home that they were building. And they showed us some entry-level homes and some of their higher-end homes. And we were excited about what they were building, and they were excited to come develop in Ozark. So as of right now, they are the front runners of the company that we're partnering with on the residential side that will really start phases 1, 2, and 3 in this development from the residential section. The time frame for these builders to do this based on different ways that we've tried to attack optimizing the infrastructure and the starting point, all of them have come back to me and said this is a 5 to 7 year project, that it would really take a lot of moving parts and something beyond what they can fathom right now to try to develop this many acres sooner than that. The reason why that ended up being beneficial for us is because some of the bottlenecks that we were running into as we were approaching planning for this project, one of them being out of the gate, we were informed of a wastewater issue that was at the Lambert's lift station. And when we were originally trying to work with Jeremy Parsons on this, and he informed us that it was going to take 2 or 3 years to get that infrastructure, resolved. That did not fit our timeline. But now that we've kind of gotten this far into the process of planning and working with all of our vertical build partners and had deep enough conversations, that time frame actually works a lot better for everybody else, including the utility company when I spoke with Ozark Electric. Right now, we don't think that the wastewater, to our knowledge, based on what we have, is going to be an issue as far as timing, as far as the capacity that's available now or will be available when the vertical build partners start, kind of meets the time frame that we're after. So we were happy to hear that we kind of negated that. The second one was the one that I've already mentioned, was the utility situation. But after speaking with Ozark Electric, just 3/4 of a mile north of this development they have a substation that has plenty of capacity to get this development up and going. And as it phases in, they have all of the equipment and resources out in Oklahoma. They just said, hey, as we build out, we'll just get it on a truck and we'll get it over here and get you up and going. But although they have all the transformers and all the equipment ready to go, they have no concerns about supply chain issues and getting that ready. They were like, Mike, we would like to see this phase in and just make sure it's going to do what it's going to do before we plow all of that infrastructure into that substation. Because they're willing to pay for that substation upgrade, which was a huge part in the success of this development. That was something that Liberty was pretty adamant that we were going to have to pay 100% for. So just the cost sharing, the availability, the rates, and I know this from a personal level, the rates that the consumer will see from a co-op utility provider will be better than what they would experience from Liberty. So just across the board, it was a win to get Ozark Electric on board. And then I would say the third main hurdle in this development was working with Ozark Special Road District on the exterior road infrastructure. And we're still trying to, I would say, dot some I's and cross some T's with that group. But I think we're, 80-85% of our way there on agreeing on what the exterior road infrastructure needs to be for this development. I would say that the main change that locals will see in that is they're asking for Farmers Branch to be taking a full 3 lanes on the whole west side that touches the development. I will be transparent in the fact that we have paid for 2 traffic studies, and neither one of those traffic studies say that that's required. So we feel like we're going above and beyond to accommodate that. And mainly our desire to do that is not only to get this project done, but the focus on that is a matter of safety. And so we don't want to be responsible or be the reason why that there's an increased risk for anybody coming up and down that corridor. So we've gotten bids. We feel like we can make the math work, taking Farmers Branch 3 lanes. There's also on the north side of the development where Southern View comes across up there, there's a line of sight issue that needs to be addressed as it comes into Farmers Branch. I've had conversations with Capital Materials on partnering up and cost sharing that road improvement. There's some widening, there's some infrastructure that they can handle with their trucks, and then also that line of sight. So I feel that that we've got a clear sight and working with Capital on taking care of that up there. And then on the east, Blue Stem Road is on the east side of the development and kind of dog legs back to the east, where our entry actually comes in there on the east side. That's our only entry exit on the east side of the development. And they're asking us to widen Blue Stem and then create a left turn lane into our development. And we have priced that out and been successful in making that work in our math. So I give you a little bit of extra detail when it comes to OSRD and the fact that we still got to figure out a little bit of a condition about what they're asking me to do on Hilltop, which goes north of James River Church. I don't feel like that should be in our wheelhouse of something that we got to take care of. And so I'm still trying to negotiate with them on that. But the rest of their ask on the exterior road infrastructure, I believe we can make work. So I don't believe it's going to be an issue working with them to get this finished. Any questions about that? There's some other information I want to share with you, but I know this is a lot. And
What about the interior road ownership? Will that revert to the city, or does that discussion been had yet?
yeah, what we are proposing in the PUD that we hope to file very soon, if I can get the Public Service Commission to get a favorable vote and get the annexation in, is building the interior road infrastructure to code so that they can be adopted by the city of Ozark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
While we're talking about infrastructure, and this may be for staff, do we know what the classification of the main road through the development, will that be collector standard or higher? Or?
Yeah, the one, Michael, if
The-
you could
the
point
main
to the main
east-west.
drag that goes through,
Yeah,
it'll be a collector street the rest of
Yeah,
it.
this one right here in the PUD we have listed as a collector street
okay.
right there.
So I'll just make one comment on that first. What jumps out at me initially is once you get past the commercial development on that collector and move into the residential, in that what looks to be about quarter mile, 1,200 feet, there's 27 lots. And that's a lot of density for driveways. I would have a concern to have all those residential lots come out on that collector, which is intended to move the traffic through the development. But I just make the comment. And then I think it's interesting that OSRD would require a left turn lane when you're proposing one entry point to Farmer Branch Road. So, why you would need a 3-lane section for, that's a mile long or whatever.
Yeah.
Seems, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. What do you need a turn lane for if you don't have any driveways? I'm asking a rhetorical question, but.
Yeah, the only thing I can add to that is we've had countless conversations with a lot of folks that are confused by it. Again, we've paid for 2 expensive traffic studies that have said that what they're asking for is not needed, but we're just kind of at a lock with them. And the emphasis has been, again, safety. So again, I don't want to, nor do Steve and Connie 5 years down the road want to be, responsible for something because we didn't try to do what we could to, accommodate that. I will say that I've spoken with James River Church. I know that they've got some development that they're looking at, and the hopes is to kind of cost share with that, because if we take that 3 lanes, it's inevitably going to help them with their development. So there may be a little bit of sharing in there that reduces that cost burden for us. But right now, we can make the math work. Going back, and I'm glad you pointed out the single entry exit at Farmers. For the longest time when we were proposing this development, there was 2 entry exits. And because of OSRD's specifications and the reliance back on what code was, even with the city, we had to take that down to one entry exit. Otherwise, to meet the code going the other way was just too much. It would really change the whole Farmers Branch corridor. So we had to go back to that single entry.
Has it been discussed, and terminology I'm not up on, but say you take it to that 3-lane, okay? Has it been discussed on northbound traffic having what I would call an exit lane to get out of the main driving lanes? In other words, if you're going north, you're going to turn right into the subdivision or to the development to make that exit lane off the main.
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yeah, it's kind of, I call it like a little easement lane that when you come out into
You
kind of
just-
merge on. So it's, yeah. And
Has that been talked about versus the 3-lane all the way? If you could
oh,
relieve
those are, yes.
relieve that
Yeah.
and oppose, I'm just throwing something out.
Yeah.
I'm just talking.
I will even tell you that was agreed upon in one meeting. And when we followed up to try to get that in writing, it changed.
Okay.
So,
I understand.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you bet.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
sir. Regarding your site utilities and your infrastructure there going in, do you know roughly what your gallon output time it's all finished for sewer use or extra sewer that the plant here in Ozark will need to handle will be?
We do have that, and I apologize, I don't have that. I can't remember that number off the top of my head, but we did calculate that with Jeremy Parsons. And it's been a few months ago when we kind of hashed that out.
Because just doing some quick math, just on the residential, it's a little over 91,000 gallons a day, which seems reasonable and all. And then you add in the commercial, you're probably over, 125 to 150,000 GPM or GPD.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of extra load on that sewer plant.
Yeah, and we have had, I'm forgetting how many, but over the course of probably 2.5 years now, multiple meetings with Jeremy Parsons about that, and the fact that, we may be exposed to having to pay for increased pipe capacity, flow capacity, but then also upgrading the Lambert's lift station. He has articulated throughout time that there was a little bit of capacity redirect. I'm not sure where that flow went off the top of my head and how how they did that or where that came from. And that may have changed as of today. I've not had a conversation with him in recent weeks to know. But, especially when you get things like we've had in the last week with the amount of rainfall that we've had, is going to exploit getting that, too tight. And so we have built into our development model, I call it risk. That may be not the right word, going forward, but what it would look like both from that timing that I talked about earlier, but then the financial dollar of estimates of us having to pay for that lift station. And we've talked about different ways of tackling that, whether it be, an impact fee or a vertical build developer fee when they go to pull a permit, is there something to be paid, to help, with that. But thankfully, Jeremy was very transparent with us in the beginning when we were looking at this development, and we got ahead of that pretty quick.
My other concern, especially there on Farmer Branch, would be the ready mix plant. And also looking forward, Capital just put a really nice new asphalt batch plant up there. That's going to attract a lot of traffic, especially with all the work on 44. I know that's kind of a short-term thing, but that's going to draw a lot of long-term construction for all the major road projects down Farmer Branch. So I would expect to see, heavy haul traffic on that road potentially increase by 20%, because that is a huge asphalt batch plant that Capital just put in. And they'll be selling, to all the local contractors around. I drive that road almost every day going to work and then catch 65 up by Millwood. And if you get behind one of them ready mix trucks fully loaded in the morning, traffic backs up pretty quick. So I think that definitely needs to be a consideration that, yeah, right now it's not too bad. You may have 10, but if you got 100 cars pulling out there at 7:05, that line could get extremely long fast. So I do think that's probably where the recommendation for the 3-lane comes in on that road.
And that's what was brought up specifically, that there's an idea that when studies were conducted, that maybe those trucks, and I'm going to be careful what I say, I've not visually experienced this or witnessed it, but it's been brought to my attention that studies have shown that those trucks don't always drive the speed limit, carrying those heavy loads. And then again, that increase, especially the line of sight issue that they have where Southern View hits Farmers Branch, which I know Capital is in the process. They're a little bit more ahead of the timetable than I am right now, and being able to address that. But again, we're working together to try to make that work in the long term. But those have all been very appropriate attached conversations of what you're saying about the safety. And that's why I was saying earlier, if somebody's brought that to our attention and we know that there's a high probability that that can happen, we don't want to be a part of that. If we did our part in saying, hey, this was, highly resolved by taking Farmers Branch 3 lanes, 3/4 of a mile, then we're going to try to do the right thing.
My other question would be, has there been, I'm sure that there has, but I'll ask the question, has there been thoughts on what this will do to the Ozark School District as far as class impact?
Some of the preliminary conversations that I've had is that there was a little bit of an enrollment pullback based on some of the growth numbers that they were looking at. But the fact that this is going to be a 5 to 7 year build out, maxed out, everybody felt like that gave the school system plenty of time to look at development. It is my understanding that they've also purchased, I believe it would be north and east of this, maybe a little bit east, that they own a parcel of land for future development. And on a conservative level, this particular development fully built out, they would collect, again, conservatively, over $1.5 million a year in additional revenue from just property tax assessment.
No, and I think the additional revenue for the city would be extremely good. You throw those kids through the different schools that they would need to go to age-wise. And if you do it, I'm in construction too. So, and we do a lot of work with school districts. So you're probably looking, and I'm just going to throw this out there, not as a city guy, but just knowledge here. You could be looking at a cost to the school district for those classrooms in excess of $24 million. While yes, we are gaining $1 million in tax revenue there, that's going to take a while to catch up to build those facilities. And everybody, this year's passed all the bond votes, all their bond money's tied up, and then next year they'll rebond and stuff. So I'm just worried that we may potentially get too many kids too quick. Now, it is a 5 to 7 year project. I get that, but to see that realized revenue, just kind of a concern I have.
Okay.
All right, I'm done.
Next, thank you.
Okay. I was just going to finish off going a little bit back to the amenities in the green space. What we're trying to accomplish in a lot of the green space area is, you'll notice this last page of this, a little bit easier to see in the handout, but on the very last page of this handout, we'll give you an idea of the tree and the landscaping density that we're trying to maintain in this project. And so, again, going back to the CCRs and the tree planting and along the street corridor to kind of give it that visual appeal, but also in the retention areas, the open green space, our intent is to put in specific areas throughout the development, gazebos, picnic tables, dog parks, just some of those added kind of soft amenities, if you will, to allow people to enjoy the outdoor recreational green space of the overall project. Again, trying to give it that feel that, there's a community within the community. And then you'll notice the water areas in the commercial section. The idea there is to have kind of like a pond lake view, specifically in the evenings and mornings for the restaurants, the nice restaurants that we want to put in there for the outdoor seating. And then the trail system would incorporate there for folks that, after dinner or, they go down there for lunch on the weekends or whatnot. I've got a place to just kind of go out and walk around and enjoy the day. We do have proposed interest revision. As you you had brought up earlier when you were looking at that, but this feature here in the handout is our revised entry off of Farmers Branch Road, which was condensed down to that single entry exit versus the 2 entry exits that we had originally proposed in the development. We just had to make this change within the last couple of weeks in working with OSRD and some of the other building codes, infrastructure codes. So I think the only other thing that I wanted to mention is we are trying to proceed with this application in the most efficient way that we possibly can, because time is of the essence for us as investors / developers. We've been trying to get this done for well over 2 years now. In the current, plan, there's been a couple of tweaks and redesigns, if you will, with what I'm presenting tonight. But the meat and potatoes of what this looks like, we've been trying for a couple of years to get this through. So we've put in a lot of thought into it. Spoke with a lot of folks trying to make this work and make it as successful as possible. And again, the only thing that we're really waiting on to really continue this to get going is the annexation, which is dependent on the utility company. So I know we had a date that just passed last Friday that we were trying to meet, and unfortunately we didn't get the answer that we needed to get it through. But our goal is, as soon as we get that answer, to continue this process and work with Megan and others on keeping this thing going. So I appreciate you guys letting me come tonight and giving you a little bit of information about our project.
I've got one more ask.
Yeah.
Can you pick the best rendering and take us through the phases one more time the way you see it now? Or is phase 1 through phase whatever? If you're going to stay on that one, that's fine. But which one you think would depict it best and be able to easiest see it?
Yeah. I apologize, my team didn't number this map handout for you, but if everybody can get a visual, like if this works better for you, this is the phase map. And again, this is proposed because, again, the idea for everybody involved, whether it be the gas company, the electric company, even the wastewater flow that would come along Farmers Branch, all the way to our vertical build partners, everybody from an efficiency standpoint says the best place to start is along Farmers Branch and then work east. And so with that in mind, we've tried to phase the project in that way. But as you can see right now, we have phases 1, 2, and 3, starting with the apartments, the townhomes, the multifamily, and the commercial, and then working down. Really, it's numbered that way to try to communicate that because we have a single entry exit coming off Farmers Branch, and we immediately have to go into interior road infrastructure and then laying all of the main infrastructure utilities to get the development going, there's not much left to take that road, that interior road north, and make it available for all of that to be ready to go in the beginning. Really, the only thing that would trap that quickly is going back to what Caleb said about the wastewater. So, and right now, I think there's enough capacity based on the numbers that we have that shouldn't be an issue in those first few phases. However, the objective for us is to get the residential going. So really what you see as phases, 15 and 19, this right here, we would like to get going on the residential first. And the reason why this was proposed this way for this particular meeting is this was just changed in the last week, because there's an idea that there may be some efficiency to flow it down through number 4, 5, and 6 and go through here because of the road construction. And where that came into play in conversation is with emergency management on having dual access for emergency services when we got up and going. And so if we could create this corridor right here all the way over to Blue Stem, and maybe even this collector road, because again, to be transparent, what's concerning me a little bit is to pay for Farmers Branch to go 3 lanes and to pave this nice entry exit, and then all of these months have all the construction trucks beating all of this down as this development was taken off. And so we were thinking, okay, if we went this way and we just took a, whether it be temporary or, a cost-efficient way to asphalt that all the way to Bluestem, then we would have the trucks come in back this way. And so that's why this numbering system was created within the last week like this. But truly how this, as we go into actually filing this, our intent is to start this residential right here. And because all of this road infrastructure, the utilities, the wastewater will be put in, this should all be pretty much available for somebody to take off with it too, which we like, because that would be the commercial, which would create jobs if those were new hires for restaurants and niche retail going in, but then also immediately start offering that convenience to the residents as they purchase homes and moved into the development. And I'll give you just another slight example of how I think this is going to ebb and flow is number 17. That's the amenity park with the pool and everything. Well, if we get 3 or 4 phases going, without a doubt, those residents are going to be like, where's my pool? Where's my, so can I leave that all the way to 17? My intent is not to, but I also don't want to overcommit and be like, hey, that's the 4th phase in this development. That would be a heavy lift for us, because all of that road infrastructure and everything that would have to be built just to have an amenity park sitting in the middle of a fescue field, right? Until year 3, 4, or 5, until we got back there. And so we're trying to have that balance in the PUD. I don't want to leave it hanging out there forever, because the city's not going to like that. The residents are not going to like that. We don't want that from a quality perspective, but we've also kind of got to just get a feel of it as development goes on.
Okay.
But in summary, the development will work from west to east.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
I
much
appreciate it.
it.
Thanks for having me.
I would just add one note that continue to look this over, and any thoughts you have, feel free to share with us. We're kind of in that stage where we're doing some preliminary review just to keep things moving. But they've not officially made application for annexation or zoning. So once that occurs, then we'll kind of be under the gun to get the project to the point where we can recommend approval and bring it to you. And if that's in June. So the more feedback we get, the better it helps us, and obviously helps Mr.
Okay.
Roberts.
Yeah, we definitely want to do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much again. All right. From there, we'll move to unfinished business, which we don't have any of that this evening. So we'll move right into new business. We're looking at an annexation number 25-0002. Property location is property abutted by North Highway NN on the west, across from the Ozark Middle School and the North Elementary. Property owner is Valerie L. Lynch. Mr. Whitman, you are up.
Thank you. Figure out what, there we go. Okay, yeah, this is an annexation. This is a request to annex or petition to annex 20 acres into the city of Ozark. The property is located across from the North Elementary on the west side of NN Highway. The property is undeveloped and it's zoned general agriculture. That's the county zoning designation. Sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself there. So these are the guiding factors the city asks the commission and the board to consider when a petition to annex property is made. So is the property contiguous to this current city limits? And as you can see, I think I've got some map, something happened here. I apologize. As you can see from this map, the areas in purple are existing city limits. So it is contiguous to the existing city. The other things to consider is the property have any outstanding restrictions? Is there any liens, judgments? The property does have clear title and there's otherwise in good standing. It is eligible for annexation. The property is located within 300 feet of the city's utilities, including water and sewer. And it's located within Tier 1, and that's outlined by Christian County's Urban Service Area Agreement, which the city is aligned with. Again, the city can provide water and sewer infrastructure to the property. It has access to a roadway, and the annexation is supported by the city's comprehensive plan. So kind of looking ahead a little bit, the applicant will be bringing assuming it gets annexed, it will be bringing an application to rezone the property in June. But generally speaking, the property to the north is unincorporated and it's zoned rural residential and agriculture in the county. It's general commercial on the west and on the south. That's what you see in red. There's a little bit of commercial across NN. I think that's a daycare, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, the school is located directly across from it. And it's zoned agriculture residential, not quite sure. I didn't get that on there, so I apologize. So again, you're only being asked to consider the annexation, but looking ahead, we wanted to give you some insight into what the comprehensive plan provides. So the comprehensive plan does recommend a mixture of commercial and residential uses and more of a planned approach. That's to maximize the utility of the land in concert with the limitations that do exist, which there really aren't very many. As I said, utilities are available. It has direct access to the highway. And the land doesn't really have any geographical limitations or challenges. There's no sinkholes. There's no floodplains. There's really no valuable woodlands. And there's no historic structures on the property. So there really aren't any significant issues to manage with respect to land use friction. Aside from what's across NN, there are no immediate neighborhoods. There are some neighbors, and barring anybody that speaks tonight, we've not heard any opposition to the annexation as of yet. So we will continue to work the application and work with the developer to identify final development plans as they pursue a zoning application that will be to you next month. So the developer has conveyed his kind of respect for what the Onward Ozark plan recommends, recognizing that he wants to do multifamily and that the plan recommends some commercial development is appropriate on NN. So he intends or has suggested he will apply for general mixed use zoning. Again, we'll see where that goes. We have kind of reached out to MoDOT and we anticipate them limiting access to NN to one driveway or one main roadway. They will have to develop the property, building infrastructure, water, sewer, and a road network that extends roadways in all cardinal directions. Most definitely to the west and the south. We're kind of evaluating the need to extend something to the north, but the property will have to be subdivided. This is kind of a snapshot of a few of the graphics that are in the Onward Ozark plan, and you can see maybe you can point to the Longview Road connection. This property really goes north of where that road kind of goes, where Megan's pointing to. So there will have to be a roadway that connects to that future Longview Road connection. This property may not actually build that infrastructure, but we want to make sure that it's there to create connectivity within this area. With that, all the public notices have been published in the paper, certified mailings have been issued, property's been posted. As I said, we've not had any complaints. The Board of Aldermen will review this at their June meeting. And at this point, we recommend approval of the annexation of the 20 acres on NN Highway. I don't see the applicant here, but we would be glad to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Thank you. And I will ask just to confirm if we have a representative of the owner or, there you are right there.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are you the owner? Do you own the property being asked to be annexed or no? Okay. So with no one there, I won't ask anyone to come comment as ownership or representative of, but we will go ahead and move to open it up to the public for any comments on this request. The floor is open if you would like to comment. Come up to the podium and give your name and address, please.
My name is Mike Garten. Actually, I'm here on behalf of my parents, my mother here, who's 86, and my father, who's couldn't make it down here because he has limited mobility. He's 89. They live on that that area that's north and on the west end that's adjacent that touches.
Okay,
Yeah.
could you note your address, please?
My address is, I actually live in Springfield.
That's fine.
It's 1508 East Stanford in Springfield. If
Thank
that
you.
matters. So not opposed to progress, but they bought that property in 1956. They've lived there for 70 years, almost coming up on 70 years here. And they've had the pleasure of having a quiet, peaceful, most of the time there. Now there's a 38-bed hospital that's getting ready to open up. That's at the end of their street. The street, all the area around there. I don't know if you guys ever get a chance, but you should go ride down Garten Road, which is named after them. They were the only house anywhere near there for decades. It's very difficult to make a left-hand turn off Garten Road excuse me, already. So I'm thinking when there's a 227-acre new development that's right up the street and now 20 acres that's just south of them, their problems are going to be multiplied geometrically. So it's very upsetting to someone who's lived there for all these years to see piece by piece all these places become developed. They're worried about crime. They're worried about access infrastructure, being able to get around. My dad has this little electric scooter that he drives up and down the street to check out the neighborhood. You know, we're worried about him getting run over, frankly. It's just, it's a little upsetting when you've lived there for 70 years and to see things change. So they're opposed.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Can you come to the podium or do you rather sit there? I don't want to ask you to do something you don't need to do. Thank you. And your-
Traffic on in it.
What's your first name?
I'm Pat Garten.
Pat, okay, you got that?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
There's only one way to get in and out of that development, and it's on in and right across from the school.
Mhm.
How are you going to manage that kind of traffic?
That will have to come at the time when they actually ask for a specific zoning that we don't know about yet. And he mentioned MoDOT's been brought into the conversation and they'll have to come into that as well to give their recommendations at that time through the traffic study process. So I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't have a lot of answers right now. We're simply looking
Well,
at-
that was the same problem with this other. People in this other 226 acres are going to have to get to 65 some way. CC and Evans Road are the only two roads that go across there.
Mhm.
I don't think Ozark can handle that kind of traffic. Right now, when James River Church gets out, the traffic is blocked up all the way from 65 Highway, all the way down CC to NN. You can't go anywhere. And you're talking about adding more and more and more to that. It just doesn't, until we get better roads, better infrastructure, I don't know how in the world you'll tolerate all that. Besides the kids in the school, you can build all the schools you want, but can you get teachers?
Yeah.
We're having a huge problem with that. So, you know, adding and adding and adding. I know the city likes all these taxes and things, but it just doesn't. So many other infrastructure things need to be done before you add all these kids.
Mhm.
I mean, even now, when the bus goes down, they've got duplexes across the street from us. There's 30 or 40 kids in that neighborhood over there. And it's only 2 blocks. So you build a whole bunch of more multifamily houses there, you know, and hundreds of kids. Just seems like we need to work on infrastructure before we add too much more stuff. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Also, if they do, that does, and it is multifamily and stuff, we need some kind of a privacy fence. we have a lot of tractors and a lot of farm equipment that we use. Some of it we can keep locked up, but some of it we can't. And so we would be required to build more buildings that lock if there's not some kind of a privacy fence
Yeah.
between us and a development like that.
Yeah, I will mention that would be covered based upon the zoning that would be approved when we get to that point.
Mhm.
Help me, I'm not thinking buffer yards. They call it buffer yards where it, either a fence or a tree line or something would be built or created to separate you
It's
from
already a
them.
tree line.
Yeah.
That property has not been mowed since he inherited it. That was a lot of years ago. And it's full of all kinds of wild animals and creatures.
Right.
And,
Okay.
I mean, lots and lots of deer, but there's lots of other animals back there too. So we see them come out at night. So there is a tree line already, but we don't want that tree line.
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else? Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of the application and open it up to the to the commission for comments or questions. Yes, sir. Mr.
I just
Brown.
have one, regarding the annexation, I know typically in the past, we've done annexation and zoning in the same time. Is there, I'm assuming there's some sort of grace period as far as compliance when moving, we have a distance like this between annexation and zoning? Because I'm at, a property like this covered in pear trees and stuff like that doesn't, if it automatically goes agricultural to the city also, or if there's some sort of grace period in between the zoning before it gets to city zoning.
Yeah, there's no required, in other words, they do not have to pursue zoning in the same sequence together, I think that's traditionally the way it's always been done. And
Right.
it does work better. It helps you understand and contemplate one in concert with the other.
Right.
There's a lot of properties just from my short time here that I can see that have been annexed and not zoned.
Okay.
So, I mean, we would deal with that. I do know like I said, they're anticipating bringing,
Right.
working on development plans in concert with the zoning change so that they're not doing those two things independently, which is better for you all and it's better for us to consider those things when we bring a zoning case forward. So,
Okay.
I don't have a straight answer for you. No, there is no
Sure.
requirement to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was all I had.
Well, I'll expand upon that just a little bit. Part of what he asked, let me get my right words. Are we bound lawfully or ordinance wise? If we annex it into the city, does it automatically go to an agricultural zoning? It can't just lay out here in limbo. It has to be designated as something, correct?
Megan may correct me here. She's the resident expert, but it should retain the zoning that was established in the county until such time as you change it.
Is that correct? So it'll stay agricultural city zoning?
Yes,
Or
it will
whatever that
stay
is.
agricultural, but it will retain the county zoning. But basically what prompts them to request the zoning is they can't do any development or
Right.
anything on the property itself. So it kind of initiates the need for the zoning.
Right, okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure it defaulted to something, right? Okay, okay. Anyone else?
I'll just make a comment. I appreciate the speakers coming in and talk towards the case. My opinion is this property is going to develop one way or another, whether it's in the county or the city. It's going to develop. So I think it's in the city's best interest to have it brought into the city where we can control and oversee, the proper development of that land. So I'm in support of the annexation.
Thank you, Chad. Anyone else? You good? Pete? Adam, you good now? Okay. Well, with everybody, I would look to accept a motion towards this application. 25-0002. Go ahead.
I move to recommend approval of annexation 25-0002 as presented in the report and staff's findings.
Thank you, Chad. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Adam, go ahead and roll call. Megan, please.
Adam Brown,
Aye.
Chad Zickafus,
Aye.
Trevor Branch is absent, Jeff Garrison,
Aye.
Hallie Goldberg is absent, Caleb Berger,
Aye.
Lacey Colbert is absent, Pete Renfro,
Aye.
and Suzanne Daniel.
Aye.
You guys have it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Okay, second application, vacation, and we'll let Mr. Whitman explain. 25-0001, property location is 1602 through 1604 West South Street. The applicant is Ozark Assembly of God Church. Mr. Whitman, go ahead.
This is actually an abandonment of a sidewalk easement, and Megan is going to provide some details on this one.
Yes, it is, the application is vacation 25-0001, but that is because we do not have an abandonment application. So it is, would be considered the abandonment, and we did have this property here before you last meeting for a rezoning from agricultural to general mixed use. This is the Assembly of God Church property off of West South Street. But we are here today to discuss the abandonment of a 15-foot wide sidewalk easement that was dedicated. This is from the property developer. I have highlighted where they identified the sidewalk easement. So it's this, it's kind of hard to see, but it's this yellow outlined area. It was dedicated in 2010, but since then we've had an actual sidewalk built along the southern portion of South Street, and I'll show that to you guys in a brief moment. The applicant is just looking to abandon this because it's no longer needed, as we do have an existing sidewalk, and it does kind of cut through the property itself. So just looking for that. And then there is also a trail easement or trail that is noted to run along the western side of the property on the eastern side of South 17th Street. It's not noted in this survey, but the OTO or the trail master plan does show that. So that will be requested as the property develops. And then the final authority to abandon the sidewalk easement does rest with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we go back to the Missouri State statute, which allows the Planning Commission to make plans and also specifically abandon public ways and streets, etc. So that's kind of where your authority comes from. And then this is just a screenshot of the Google Maps showing the existing right-of-way on the property as it exists today. And there was a notice published in the paper. We did not receive any comments, and both Public Works and the Planning Department do support the abandonment of the sidewalk easement.
Thank you, Megan. I guess I need to open it up to the public for comment. I think I'll do it.
Yes, I think that would be good.
I'll go ahead and open this up for any public comment. You want to fill in, Mayor? Okay, no, just kidding. I don't see anybody real excited about it, so I'll just go ahead and shut off the public portion and open up the commission for questions or comments. I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I don't think the Assembly of God Church wants us to come in 5 years down the road and say, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
we want to take away a third of your property up front. But if no questions or comments, look for a motion. I'll go ahead and make a motion for approval of Vacation 25-0001, abandonment of a sidewalk per staff recommendations. Second.
I'll second.
Go ahead and roll call, Megan.
Okay. Okay, Pete Renfro.
Aye.
Trevor Branch is absent. Suzanne Daniel. Adam Brown.
Aye.
Chad Zickapus.
Aye.
Lacey Colbert is absent. Kayla Berger.
Aye.
Holly Goldberg is absent, and Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
You guys have it.
Thank you very much. Well, that's all the applications for this evening. Any discussion on anything from anyone? Start with you. Adam. Pete. Suzanne.
Do you want these back?
Those are ours. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we can keep those for reference, if you think of anything you want to ask. Caleb,
Negatory here, Strider.
I have one question. I've never had it happen before that the applicant was not represented on an application. Should or does that affect the outcome in any way, shape, or form of our vote?
We anticipated him being here, so that's,
I've never had it happen
I think that's
before, so I
really,
don't know.
I think that's the liberty you have to weigh that. I don't think there's anything in our requirements that require they be here, that they be present to answer questions. I think if you have questions that aren't answered because they're not here, that's a loss on their part, so.
Okay. Well, I think if it was, and I'm not sliding anything that's happened tonight on what we voted on, but I think everything here is pretty clear cut on what we did. But if it had any merit, well, that's the wrong word. Controversial thoughts, I think maybe that would apply.
Right.
If they, I think the way Randall put it is if there was questions that could not be answered, would the answer then be it either fails, the vote would fail, or the option there would be, I would assume, to table it till the next month. Either way, right, Chad?
Yeah, and I think the commission ought to consider maybe tabling something if we have enough questions, because even if we vote against it, it'll still go to the board where they could.
Well, that's
where-
great.
where
Yeah,
the-
great point. Yes.
It's something to think about at the time. So
Yes. Yes.
If it's something we feel like we would like to weigh in on and get answers, we may be better to table something than just, because whatever our recommendation would go straight to the
Right.
board.
Good point. Thank you, Chad, for that.
I think we may not have the updated agenda in front of you, so there was a consideration of the resolution for your
Well, yeah.
change of meeting time.
Well, okay, let's talk about that a minute. Sorry. I had it in my head when I got here and I didn't see it and I thought, okay. Was that on anybody's or no?
I think we may have printed the wrong agenda.
Okay.
There was an update with the new, yes.
Well, okay. Let's go in reverse for a minute. A resolution by the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Ozark, Missouri, changing the regular meeting time for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think the recommendation or thought was 6:30 start time versus 7. I open it up to you.
Yeah, I'll start real quick. I did send out, we sent out a survey to the entire commissioners, and there was total support for changing the times. And this was kind of at the big city, Board of Aldermen considered this at their non-legislative meeting a couple of weeks ago. And they're in the process of passing an ordinance or presenting a resolution, I think, changing their meeting times. So we thought, kind of keeping in concert with their movement, we would present the same to you all. So the mayor might want to add to that. This is a resolution that you have the ability and the authority to set your own times for your meetings. In theory, you could change the night you meet. It doesn't have to be Monday night, but
You need to unlock your iPhone first.
sorry about that.
So we do breakfast at the side.
Yeah, right.
Don Kearns, fellow to East Millie Lane. Yes, the board, we started this conversation. In fact, there's several changes we're going to be making with our meetings and how we do our business and plus our breakfast session. But one thing was, maybe starting earlier. And we had discussion, do we want to do 6 o'clock or 6:30? As we checked around other cities in our area, it's basically 50-50, some 6, some 6:30. We finally decided because, we want people to be able to attend, people who may be at work, trying to feed their families and come, we sell at 6:30. The board itself, my unofficial poll, you know what that means? Everybody's in favor of this. So we're going to be doing a resolution on June the 2nd at that meeting. And plus, no, it'll be a bill. We'll expedite it also. So that way, after that, our next meeting, June the 19th, will be at the new time at 6:30. So any questions for me regarding that? But we just thought it'd be appropriate, since we're changing it, the discussion came, maybe y'all had the same option. And that's why the survey went out to y'all.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Open it up for passage of such. Do we accept the resolution? Adam, go ahead.
My 6-year-old would like it to be earlier, yes.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Caleb, second. Roll call to change to 6:30, effective June meeting.
And we'll work with Maria to get that out on the airwaves so that we don't create any confusion and we try to change. I don't know how long you've had meetings. It started at 7, but it's been quite some time.
About forever.
About forever, right. So we'll work on reminding you that it's not at 7 o'clock next meeting and getting all of our paperwork in order and kind of spreading the good news, if you will.
Very good.
Jeff Garrison,
Aye.
Trevor Branch is absent. Caleb Berger,
Aye.
Lacey Colbert is absent. Adam Brown,
Aye.
Pete Renfro,
Aye.
Suzanne Daniel,
Aye.
Hadley Goldberg is absent. Chad Zickers. The ayes have it.
Very good. Thank you. Well, I think we covered discussion, went back to letter C. Now we're at commission comments. One more round. Chad. Adam?
Good.
Comment, Pete?
I'm good.
You're good? Caleb?
I'm good.
Good again, he says.
Mhm.
Administrative comments, Mr. Whitfield, what you got? Anything?
No, nothing else. Thank you.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
Megan,
No, I don't.
it's your turn now. You ain't got nothing? You got something? You're good? All right. I think we passed it around, so we're looking for one more motion. Who wants to make it? Pete. He wants to go home. Second. And they all said,
Amen.
amen. Thank you all for being here. Thank you very much.